time now for big stories. And as Yoko brings finality to the detention of Charles Ni Ama, popularly known as Shatawale, on the stolen vehicle saga, it brings to the fore a much wider conversation around genuine importation and acquisition of used vehicles and how that space can be sanitized with its associated fraud. Now, this morning, we delve into the issues, and joining us in studio is Ransford Nana Addo Jnr, crime analyst and professional certified investigator. And as well, we're joined in studio by Frank Kofiga, Executive Secretary, Vehicles and Assets Dealers Union, Ghana. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us for this very important conversation. I mean, you have been quite vocal. You have been quite vocal since the report came out about how Ghana is nearly becoming a hub for stolen vehicles. And so maybe I will start with you, Ransford. Yeah, follow the conversation. Which part of Shatawale's narration, Yoko, the whole commentary on social media in the news, which part of it has shocked you the most?
Nothing. I'm not shocked because, again, let me say that I really wish we would discuss it in a generality because Yoko, my good friends at the Yoko and then EFCC Nigeria investigating some of these things with the FBI. But I'm not surprised at all what has happened. It is very normal for these things to happen. It happens almost every time where investigative bodies like FBI comes to town to look for assets like this. So it's nothing has surprised me. What I think we should do is a level of, low level of knowledge about who should be blamed. Oh, so if I've gone to buy something and it's stolen, why are people asking me? I think that we need to do much more education. But am I surprised at what has happened? No. It's just because of the personality involved. That is why this is news. Apart from that, this is something that happens almost here now.
Good then. We'll start our conversation from you helping us understand how the typical network or syndicate operates in the stolen vehicle conversation, from the sale of it abroad up until the port to when it gets to the consumer. Typically, how does it look like, the network and syndicate? Okay,
so this is purely an organized crime syndicate. Organized because they have links cross-border. They have different professionals involved. So typically, you would notice that an organized crime syndicate would invest in assets like luxurious vehicles because it's easy to actually sell them off and then hide the proceeds of an organized crime. Now, you will be surprised to know that they have a whole organogram set up to execute this. They have country reps, they have scouts who look out for vehicles that can easily be stolen. Now, a place like the Mall in Canada, in Australia, Perth, or Sydney, these are places that people park their cars, and you have people who are technically good to break into cars without the key to move these cars away. Now, some people also lose their cars in these countries through armed robbery, and you have people who are the sellers, the transporters, and then amazingly, we have the people we call legalizers in various companies, in countries. So if you move to every country, remember that these vehicles would have to come to a place where the border is quite porous, or the port you can easily break through, and it's easy to trace. It's difficult to trace, sorry. So the West African coast, unfortunately, if you move to Nigeria, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, and then Onitsha has become a hub. If you come to Ghana, we have Tema, Accra, and then the Golden Triangle, Takoradi, Kumasi, a hub. Now, the legalizers, their job is to make sure that these are custom officers in various countries to make sure that the documents that are being brought in that are fake, they will need to normalize it so that it will be given a genuine identity to go through the state system. People in the licensing offices will have to make sure that when that vehicle comes, do not do the normal check. Make sure it passes through. So from the border, the port, people are paid, and they are called legalizers. They are paid to make sure that they turn a blind eye instead of doing the normal job. So typically, they would have to sort somebody out who is on duty to make sure that when these vehicles come for clearing, for licensing, make sure they pass through. The normal itemizers and scanners will not pick these vehicles, and they would go through the country. They will be registered and sold through the normal system until a foreign entity like the FBI or maybe EFCC in Nigeria has come to town to say that we are looking for this vehicle. Nobody will be able to tell.
Interesting. This, I get a bit of clarity here on our soil, but again, take me back to outside of the borders. How a stolen car, so over there as well, they may have to skip certain stages and checks for it to get to our shores here.
Yes.
How easy or difficult can that be?
It depends on the country. Some countries are very difficult to get a stolen vehicle out. See, some of these things will come to the fore because either insurance companies have paid and they are looking for it, so there's much more push than an individual who might have lost something within a country looking for it. So it depends on the country. Some countries are very tough with their borders. If you look at where it even comes to, Ghana, Togo, Benin, so you have a Aflao, you have the semi border between Nigeria and then Benin, and then you have our own, how do you call it? Our own Aflao border.
Yeah.
If it's moving through land, then what you see is that you have a lot of people who actually are part of the whole process to make sure that the various checkpoints are broken. And people are compromised to move it through the various borders so that nobody picks it. If it's coming through the port, the same way. Like I mentioned, why the West African coast? It is because it's difficult to trace. It's because of the porous nature of our borders. It is because some legalizers have institutionalized the act of legalizing some of these documents that ideally should have been intercepted as stolen and not normal.
How does this feed within the financial crime structure? How can it as well? Or because without it, you won't be able to go through, right?
Okay. So typically, remember that what makes financial crime and organized crime unique is that there is concealment. So it's not easy for you to identify these things. Now, I have mentioned somewhere that some of these payments do not pass through the banking system.
Where? Where does it pass?
Okay, there's a system called Hawala. Hawala is an organized crime term for money that moves without the physical cash itself moving. So I have a vehicle in Canada. I want to sell it. Somebody is here in Ghana. He has $200,000. He wants to purchase that vehicle. What the Ghanaian would do is that, okay, in Canada where I want to buy this car, if I decide to push document through the banking system, a lot of questions will come through Yoko and FIC. Why are you sending this money? Why are the documentations and all that? So you contact somebody who is the rep of the Canadian in Ghana. You give the cash to the counterpart in Ghana, Accra, and then the vehicle is released in Canada. It doesn't pass through the banking system. We call it Hawala.
Is it an abbreviation? Is it a
no?
Like, or is it?
It is a financial crime term about money that moves based on trust. And it didn't start today. If you go to Tudu Okaishi, they are all over. You need money in US. I don't have the papers to send anything. I don't want to draw any attention to myself. I will give it to a Ghanaian counterpart. Somebody will take it in the US.
Okay. Okay. We'll come to you again, Ransford, and thank you for starting the conversation with us. But I'll come to you, Mr. Kofiga. Frank, you definitely have dealt with vehicle and assets dealers. You're a union. Does this surprise you? This narration, this lessons we're taking now, does it surprise you? Do you know about it as a union? Do you know about it?
I think the Hawala part is a bit surprising, but then the modus of this trade is not surprising at all. Because you realize that the focus often is on luxury vehicles. But I want to tell you, start from mid-sized sedans all the way up. Now, when this came to fore in 2022, September 2022, when the FBI and the RCMP came into the country, I think it was upon a tip-off of a particular crime that involved death at the end of the day. So there was a particular vehicle they were looking for. But we were informed after the whole swoop that the Interpol had about 300 vehicles that they were looking for. But unfortunately, about 64 were found in various garages and on the streets in the country.
I think they're about 75.
And even that, they had to hold on with the operation because it was becoming a public concern at the time. Now, it is not surprising to hear some of these things because the institutional breakdown is the main problem. The collaboration of institutions from the port all the way to the DVLA has become the problem. There is a breakdown. Because if a vehicle like this is stolen, and the vehicle we are told is a 2019 Lamborghini Urus, it means that it's been in the system. It's been on Carfax or on the, what do you call it, the VIN checkers as a stolen vehicle, because clearly the vehicle has been on the system for 6 years. Okay, so for this vehicle to come into the country, clear customs, clear the rigorous system we have at the ports, national security, all the way through for it to come out to the streets, and we are hearing that IOCO is picking it up. It is no news. It's news because it is Shatawale. You understand? I can tell you on authority that even politicians are suffering this same thing quietly. We have a lot of people, if you're to open your lines, they can tell you about their experiences that they've had with this particular syndicate. What are we supposed to do as a country to ensure that we clear up this menace? Okay. Because it's become a great haven for money laundering and money laundering activity. We'll
come to that, and that's why we've been able to risk Ransford to be in the studio with us today. We'll come to what we can do. But let me introduce Mr. Pierre Kusi Adumako, Director, CUTS International, joining us in studio. And Mr. Adumako, we started this conversation in the news yesterday, and I'm happy that you're able to join us this morning. I will come to you in a moment. I just want to come back to you, Ransford. So there's a case in point, of course. We may not have to water it down with the Shatawale, but there's a case in point. And as practical as enough, if anything in the IOCO statement is anything to go by, for example, I bought it from the street. I do not know who I bought it from. I cannot provide other relevant document. The only thing I can provide is the customs declaration and whose name is on and all of that. From an investigative point, I mean, I don't know how much you can provide, but what does that look like? What does it mean?
It raises more questions than answers. Say that you buy an asset of this nature and you cannot actually provide things like receipts. You cannot provide the identity of the dealer. You cannot also give details of the location of the dealer as well. These are not, excuse my language, toffees and ice cream that are sold. Even if you went to buy ice cream and then it tastes bad, you should be able to take us to where you bought it from. So it shows all the signs that indeed a crime has happened. Because genuinely asset of this nature, you have better particulars about the person you dealt with. And at least a phone number to aid the tracking of the conversations and all that would help. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a broader conversation about how people can buy items that the prices may look too good to be true. And you notice that if I gave you the same amount of money that go and get me the same item, you would struggle. Those are warning signs that you are meeting somebody, he doesn't want you to know his garage, he doesn't take you anywhere, you say you met on the street. That is a warning sign. Because this is a vehicle. If anything goes bad and you are supposed to look for the dealer, you should by now have the contact, you should have the identity. So this statement from IOCO, I've read it again and again. And I think that if indeed the young man actually said that he does not know the buyer, he does not have any detail, and he only knows a name, then it brings more questions than answers.
Okay, I'll come back to you after I've just interacted with Mr. Adumako. And when I come to you, Ransford, my question will be that I've heard VIN number. Is it the same as the chances number?
Yeah.
It's the same, right?
Vehicle identification number.
Okay, okay. So when I come to you, Ransford, what I want to know is that, are they able to alter it at some point at all? Are they able to alter it? And how are countries unable to track it at the entry point at all? I know you've been telling us about institutions and people who work in there, but how is it that at the entry level we are unable to track it? But Mr. Adomako, from the consumer point, really, do we have any rights for somebody who, unsuspecting the person is purchasing the car and they're unable to tell whether there's only so much due diligence you can do? There's only so much rule and contract, caveat emptor, right? You should know, buyer beware and all of these things. Do we have any rights that protect consumers in such situations at all?
Good morning and good morning to your viewers. I think when you buy a car, as you rightly said, the burden lies on you as the purchaser to do the needful. It's like going to buy a land. You don't just see a land at East Legon Hills and be shown the land title, the site plan, and pay for it. You need to go to Lands Commission to do your search. Even sometimes Lands Commission search may come clean, but then the footnote on it may not validate what Lands Commission has said. People may be claiming multiple ownership of the land. At that point, you must understand, you must be able to know that this is not a good transaction to go. But in buying a car, the presumption is that whenever you have the document from the customs and the custom names bears the ID of the seller, you know that all righteousness have been fulfilled. But what we are hearing for the past couple of months is indicative of the fact that due diligence in buying a car goes beyond the custom papers. And unfortunately, with the custom documentation that you have, does not necessarily, what the custom document shows that the car has come into the country, all duties have been paid. As to whether the title of the car is genuine, custom documentation doesn't prove that. You know, in the US, the process is when you want to export a car out of the US, you must have a title. And for most shippers, before the shipper can accept your car, they want to see the title. And most cars in the US are, people buy a lot of their cars largely on insurance. And so the insurance companies may have to give you the title, that the title belongs to Kojo Mensah. So at the point of you giving the car to the shipper, you are supposed to provide a title. But the way people have been able to falsify documents, people are falsifying documents and they are getting fake titles. Last 2 years, a friend of mine bought a Toyota Highlander 2022. And the car took more than 6 months to come to Ghana. We were told that the FBI and the US Customs were doing mid-ocean surveillance. They had to stop the vehicles on the mid-sea and then check and then return some of the cars that have been stolen back to the US. And so at the other side also, people have been able to find the loopholes in the system and they are kind of falsifying documents and shipping them. That is why most of these cars are coming in. So as a consumer, unfortunately, if you buy a car like this and you are not lucky and the car is stolen and the title was the stolen car, but they have paid the duty, it still doesn't exonerate you because the person who is selling the thing to you doesn't own the title. Anymore, that court rule says that, I mean, you can't, what you don't have, you can't give. And so the title is defective. And so whoever owns the car can come and get it. In Tree, they say that they are there or the Benkum Neji. And so, but as a consumer, if FBI or Yoko comes for the car, you can still go and go to court and chase and get your money from whoever you bought the car from. Okay,
Ransford, so can they alter that very identification of the vehicle?
Yes, but it should leave a trace. If, you know, the chassis is embossed, is it on the engine?
It's on we have different areas where we have the chassis. We have one underneath the windshield.
On the windshield. And
we have underneath some on the block, on the chassis. There are about 4 or 5 areas.
Areas that you should see this. So the first of all, what you need to do is to compare what you are seeing on the car documentation and then what is actually embossed on the vehicle. Now, if you notice that there has been some tempering, because indeed something that is embossed, if anybody tempers, even with the normal eye, you should have some level of visibility that how come these 4 areas, the windshield, the block, the engine block itself, and then sometimes even the door, where you have the ties and other things there, the PSI is written. You should notice that the chassis has been tempered with.
Oh, I know PSI. That's the amount of air that goes in your car tire.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you should see that. You should see that these things have been tempered. But I think it goes beyond that. You see, you buy in a vehicle, the history of the user. Today, there are online portals that you can just take a chassis number, enter, and you'll be able to see that this car here is actually stolen, or this car here, this is the record of the people who were using the car. And you should be asking questions to the one who is selling the vehicle to you that, who is Andrew, maybe Mason? Oh, he was the one who was using it. Maybe he died and his son is selling it. You need to do some level of due diligence. But to be honest with you, if you take more than 70% of car documents, the seller's picture is not the one on it. Anybody's picture at all that even the seller and the buyer do not know can be on there. Because people do car documents without seeing human beings in this country. And it broadens the conversation about the role of the legalizers who are in institutions from customs, who are in institutions from the licensing authority, who make these things pass through.
Okay. Frank, you have at least done this practically for a while now. If you took your vehicle to DVLA today and provided them with all the necessary documents, is there a way DVLA can tell if this car is a stolen car that's been imported?
No.
They cannot?
They cannot tell. The DVLA is a licensing authority, the final agency that ensures that a vehicle is roadworthy and then is driving on the streets. The only thing they can tell is if the requisite or the right duties were paid at the port of exit. That's it. But as to whether the vehicle is stolen and all of that, it is done at the port, at the Tema port itself, or Takoradi port, depending on the land borders where these vehicles get into the country. But I want to state this. There should be a broader conversation about this, because this has actually unearthed the disability we have in the market. It's quite unhealthy. There is a preventive division of the Ghana Revenue Authority or Customs. These guys are equipped. They know what they are about. Anytime they hit the streets, they are able to do their work, and they are able to do their work well. You cannot hide or alter a vein and then they will not know. If you go to their office around the airport, they are there. You understand? The problem has to do with the right verification and the right personnel doing the right things at the port. Now, if the only thing that you can validate a vehicle in this country is your custom, document. That's it. Yes, because once the vehicle crosses borders, the title is no longer effective. You understand? So if somebody walks into my garage and is asking for the title, I have my titles, yes. But the only proof you want from me is whether the vehicle is a clean title, it's a salvage title, or what have you. It is very difficult for anybody to walk into a garage and say that I want to see the title of the vehicle. We don't deal with titles here. We deal with custom documentations here. So yes, the onus lies on the buyer to do an extensive search on the vehicle before parting with money. But the kind of system we have doesn't give you the front line to just walk into the police ID with a copy of a vehicle to kind of run a scan on whether the vehicle is stolen or the vehicle is okay to buy and all of that. The same has to do with our lands. People buy lands and after they fall into all sorts of mess and all of that. So yeah, it's the same issue with vehicles. It's the same issue with vehicles as what I think there's a need for us to look at it and look at it properly.
Frank, I'm going to go to Mr. Adumarko, I'll come to you. Frank, after Mr. Adumarko, when I come to you, I'd like to find out, but for the FBI, Interpol collaborating and bringing this conversation to the fore, whether EOCO alone or which other way could this conversation come to the fore? If the FBI didn't start tracing certain stolen cars into Ghana, Interpol, together with Interpol, what are some of the signals that we could have picked up? Because all I'm hearing is it looks like we're only interested in the customs part of it, whether duties have been paid. You go through whatever processes that you have to go through from the port till when your car is in your garage. Could you just randomly be in this country and then you will know that this car is a stolen car, but for the FBI and Interpol runs for when I come to you. But Mr. Dumarco.
Okay, so let me give you a typical example. Last week, I saw online here a car, Lexus RS350 2023 edition. And I wanted to express interest in the car. Now, the guy gave me the price of, I think, 1 million cedis and over. And I said, well, can I have the VIN number? And he said, okay, when I come over, then he will give me the VIN number. At that point, I realized that there must be something fishy about the car. Because for me to buy a car, I want to know even the last stage of the car in the US. Some cars that come here might have been over mangled, and the one that comes here, they do a lot of surgeries on the car to get a car roadworthy. Cosmetic surgeries on the car to get a car. But once you get a VIN number, you'll be able to have a lot of information about even beyond the shape of the car in the US. If the car is even a stolen car also, you can also even run a search and find out the car is a stolen car.
Let me in the search. What kind of search? I'll come to the Ransford speciality, but what kind of search would you have done personally?
So the first search is the vehicle history, the maintenance history of the car. Once you, some of them you need to pay some some of the information is $5 to tell you.
Some are even free.
Some of them are even free. Oh. It tells you maybe when when you take your car to the dealer for maintenance, you go to check your shock absorbers, your alloys, whatever. All those things are entered the date, where the work was done, everything. So you can see the history of the car, its maintenance history. And then the last point you see, the very point it terminates is where the car had an accident and there wasn't anything. But those ones, you also see the pictures of the auction site. They may have the pictures of the car on the website, how the car was damaged or whatever, before the car was sold to whoever bought it and brought it here. And so that is and also there's also a particular portal, which is also a law enforcement portal. Those ones is you may need to request, write an request, and then they can also run a search for you for free that you want to buy this car, and then they will check whether everything, cars are registered at the state level in the US. Most of the cars that comes here from the US and Canada, so I'm using the US so if I'm buying a car from state of Pennsylvania, and I know the car was registered, I may also want to write the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicle of Pennsylvania, and they can also give you any information about the car, whether the car is, they can even tell you if the car is a flooding car, they are required to even disclose it at the time of at auction. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is one transparency there. If the car is stolen, you will not see those ones on their website, but then they will be able to tell you that this car is under a matter of investigation. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the luxury to do all of these things.
And the patient.
Do we not defer this responsibility to you, Frank, car dealers? Would you not have done all of this? If I am purchasing a car from one of your members, shouldn't I assume that you have done all of this?
So that is where I want us to draw the line. Honestly, let's take some time and go into it. We have importers and we have dealers.
Okay.
I want to state categorically here that about 95% of vehicles that you see in the dealership were not imported by the garage dealers. We have importers who bring in these vehicles. I want to state the majority of these vehicles, even from the dealership point, they do not know who imported the vehicles, because it came from a recommendation and somebody has this car and then, it finds itself in a garage. You understand? So yes, what are you supposed to do to ensure that, yes, this vehicle that I'm giving out is not a stolen vehicle, or that it's not a vehicle related to crime? The reason why people do not go the extra mile to do some of these searches is because of a good deal. I'm getting a good deal, so why will I go into this particular process of trying to check? Now, if we are to put this in a proper perspective, we are to hold the customs division.
Okay, we'll come to who to hold responsible. Ransford, what does Frank mean when he says that a good number of people that deal in cars, they will deal with the importers? Where do we break the chain on this value chain? So I'm hearing the importer, I'm as well hearing the dealer. Does this make it nearly, you cannot trace it? What does this mean?
I think that two things. One, irrespective of who is buying it, whether an individual, an importer, a dealer, so far as it gets to the shores of this country or the borders, if we are working with our international partners like the FBI and Interpol, and a vehicle is branded as stolen, we should ask the authorities questions how these vehicles were registered in this country. Came through our ports, through our borders, went through licensing, and duties were also paid. Like he said, I think the average Ghanaian would take the duty document and the car papers and say that so far as customs has actually stamped this, it's genuine. You understand? So if custom has given the go-ahead that this vehicle here should, you can pay the duty, it goes through licensing, the average Ghanaian thinks that this is done. I think the point where we need to tighten will be at the port and our customs. Whether it is an importer, whether it's an individual, the collaboration between our security agencies will have to be on point. Because indeed, if, as he's mentioned, this is a 2020, this is a 2019 vehicle,
yes.
Let's assume that it's been stolen for about a year. By now, on our various portals, by the CID, DVLA, the Customs Division, this vehicle, we shouldn't have waited for the FBI to come in town. And I'm using this example because if indeed we had been given the notification that this vehicle is a stolen vehicle, then it shouldn't have come through. And even if the notification came late, we should have found this vehicle on the road and impounded the vehicle before FBI gets to town.
Okay. Now you've just brought the attention to before FBI comes to town. But for FBI, Interpol, you would ever know?
No.
Our current regime is difficult to identify a stolen vehicle, and we need to make it very, very clear. See, there are vehicles that, if you have the eye, you notice a vehicle that is passing. How can a 2019 vehicle be having a 2017 number plate? Have you ever seen one? There are very luxurious vehicles in town, in this country, being driven by some people, and you notice that the vehicle registration
doesn't match the year of
manufacturing.
But the year of manufacture, is it written on it boldly?
Oh, you should see it. If you see Toyota Corolla, you should be able to say, this is 2019 Toyota Corolla, but the registration is 2017.
Okay.
What it means is that the number plate has been embossed somewhere. It's questionable.
Okay, Mr. Admarco, I see you want to...
So, I think in this country, let me give this example, change a little bit. Some years ago, Ghana FDA, for example, was informed about Sudan 4 in the palm oil that we've been drinking, we've been cooking, we've been using here.
Yeah.
We have our FDA here, Food and Drugs Authority here. They didn't do any research on it, but the British Food and Drugs Authority did their investigation and realized that palm oil coming to the UK from Ghana have been those with Sudan for what we call in local parlance, Sudi. Now, so what was FBA doing? The issue is that most of our institutions here, they don't invest a lot of resources in data collection or doing research. So, for example, even if customs have been also standing on the road and also picking information and in relation with, let's say, DVLA, they may also be able to have some post-clearance and post-registration issues. As he said, a car may be 2023 make and then being licensed of 2021. And they should raise a red flag. But people know that in Ghana, once the car is registered, that is it for you. Elsewhere, the police, before the police officer stops you, the police officer would have entered your car number and run a search before even talking to you. But unfortunately, our police in Ghana stands on the road with just an A4 sheet or a pocket notebook with no access to real-time car database. And so it makes law enforcement difficult. The DVLA doesn't share information with the Ghana Police Service, and police service doesn't have even the customs database. So when a police officer is even standing on the road, what is he searching for? He's searching your license, whether your license has expired or not. Even people are using a fake license, and the police cannot even see. And this tells us that in the age, and we are in 2025, where a police DVLA data can be on a phone for which police can search from their
QR code
information.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we are not investing in this. If we were investing in some of this, that would have reduced the incentive for people to bring stolen cars into the country, because it has become like free for all. They know that once the car gets into Tema Harbour and you pay the duties, you can actually drive the car till you retire the car from the road.
Transport. So Mr. Adomako mentioned mid-ocean surveillance. What role does it play in this conversation that we're having?
So that is the job of, we have different security agencies. You don't have to wait for it to even come to your shores before you begin to check whether this is stolen or not. But at the end of the day, vehicles are coming on sea. You're able to intercept them and say that, when you check what you are carrying, when you check the documentation, when you do that, you increase the perception of detection. That, see, if you decide to steal a vehicle, don't go through this route, because mid-ocean, the vehicles will be intercepted, documents will be validated, it will be checked with what you are carrying. But if you don't check anything, and then it comes through our porous borders, then it explains why, among all the countries in the world, Ghana, Nigeria, Togo, it sends a signal. It means that we have porous borders. It means that it is very easy for you to pass these vehicles through. That is why they are coming here.
So everything I'm learning this morning is that, well, they can beat the system for the cars to get here, for you to purchase, but we cannot conceal the activities. For example, the chassis number you have just been teaching me, they can just do something, but you cannot conceal it entirely. So no matter what, if you wanted to investigate, if you wanted to search further, you'd be able to know that this car is a stolen vehicle. Is that the take-home message today?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, my cousin was buying a vehicle, and he insisted that he wanted to inspect the vehicle. And he noticed that where the chassis number is, there has been a tampering, as if they have grinded the place like a welder. And he traced it to the door and that is torn. And he said that, see, my brother is a police officer, can we go to the police station and park there so we can transact? The guy said he won't go. Key, you have to do the physical verification, compare it to document, and check online. Like you mentioned, maybe it's even not for the stolen part. It may be a vehicle that is even fallen victim to flooding. That this vehicle here is flood prone. You see it. So apart from the physical inspection, which the normal eye should be, I haven't seen, maybe he will tell us, I haven't seen anybody do it so nice that they have taken off the VIN or the chassis embossment and have done it so well that the eyes cannot see. The ones that I have seen, the eye should be able to see it.
Adomako, let's go back to the ports for customs, because it looks as though when you see somebody's car is registered, we've put our confidence in the institutions, which means that I trust that custom would have looked out for what they have to look out for before they ask for the duty to be paid. When I'm lucky and it gets to DVLA, they would have looked out for what they have to look out for before I can get my car driven to my garage at home. If the systems are like this, then where do we move from here?
Yes. Ideally, we should have trusted the gatekeepers in the country to help us. So once you have it, you know that all righteousness have been fulfilled. But it's not so. But it's also not wrong to ask government to ask customs to go into an extra mile. You know, when the COVID-19 came, they added the COVID-19 disinfection fee to make sure that cars that are coming are disinfected. And that we started paying for it. So that service can also be done. And the good thing is that when the cars, even before the car gets to Tema Harbor, they would have had the manifest of every ship that is coming here, the cars that are in. All those information can be sent to the various countries where
Most of these vehicles come in without manifest.
Yeah, without manifest.
Yeah,
What is manifest?
They come in and amend them here locally.
What is manifest?
So the manifest gives you the containment, what you have in a container and everything. The details of what the container is carrying. Okay, so it comes with the chassis number, it comes with the capacity, it comes with everything. Okay, so before the vehicle gets here, at least custom can go ahead to do
that's the document they fall on.
But some of these containers come in with a different manifest. It can come in as a, what do you call it, household goods, but there are about 4 or 5 cars in there.
Okay.
But, you know, customs has allowed this thing to fester in this country. Under the World Customs Rule, and customs rule, if the item listed on the manifest or the bill of lading, there's a substantial deviation from what is actually in, that item should be flagged. That is why when someone is traveling by air, for example, from here to London or here to the US, even before the plane takes off, everybody, all the passengers on that flight, the names are sent to the US Homeland Security for them to validate, to make sure that everybody, though the fact that you have a visa sticker in your passport doesn't necessarily mean that you can still fly to the US. So Homeland Security will have to validate before the plane can take off. So customs also has to ensure that anytime goods are coming into the country and they don't have the proper manifest, it means that something is wrong, and those goods should not even be allowed to be cleared. And once they start doing that, people will start doing the right thing, that any car that comes into our port will have the VIN number, the chassis properly identified.
Ransford, in Ghana, Manifest is a musician. Now it's coming up in our conversation. Ransford, so if you look at the mandate of customs, we're asking that we add more of this responsibility. But if you look at the investigative bodies, do you think that we should rather introduce another or an entire body to be dedicated to such service, looking out for whether it's a stolen car and all of that? Because at customs, I really would be focused on collecting money.
No, you have the preventive side of it.
Okay.
To make sure that things that are not supposed to come here do not get here.
But we know the practical bit of it. Should we now give this responsibility out?
Institutions, duplicating institutions, what we need to do is to equip the existing ones. I strongly believe that some of the things that happen, which causes embarrassment to this country, about 2 or 3 things. One, the institutions have not had the tools to do the work. The second one is that those who even have the tools, and he mentioned how it is UK that must come to this country and tell us that your palm oil that you are bringing to UK has to be in it. What are the institutions here doing? How come we couldn't see? The same way, people pass through our airport, they get to another country, and their bags are searched, and then there are things that they shouldn't have carried. How come our items, our itemizers and scanners are not picking it up? I do not think we should create double institutions to do this. We should resource these institutions. And then when we see that people have let the ball down, people have bypassed and legalized illegalities by allowing some of these things to happen, they should be called out. And the laws must take effect so that it serves as a deterrent to others. Like we are saying, we all know that in this country, there are places that when you go and you're able to see some people, the checks that you are supposed to pass through, you don't pass through. What if that check is what is going to save this country someday? So I do not believe that we should form another security agency to deal with these issues. Other than that, the lands, we need to form another to deal with the lands. We need to form another to deal with drugs. We need to form another to... we have to allow the institutions to work. Some of them, they do not have tools. See, if you went outside the country and somebody just stopped you and scanned your car, it will review everything on that car. We have left our police officers on the streets with papers and pens, and they cannot even check whether the passport you are having is genuine or fake. They cannot check whether the number plate is genuine or fake. We need to share information. These things are done with information and collaboration. From DVLA to the port to the police service, we need to share information on common platforms that at one go, one person can say that this thing here is not supposed to be here. This vehicle should not have come to this country, and then we take over from there.
Addo Jnr, finally, if you have followed the conversation on Shatta Wale, as a consumer, he is a consumer. Does he have any rights? Just on the face of the matter, do you think he has any rights accrued to him? He's unable to provide some information per the statements from Iyoko.
There is a general saying in law that whoever comes to court of equity must come with clean hands. And the way that Shatta Wale bought the car, is it what is expected of a reasonable person in purchasing a car? You can't say that you bought a land, Trasak, or let's say East Legon, Hills or East Legon, and you don't even know who bought it for you. You saw the person on the street and then you exchange hands. You know that land purchasing just goes beyond, land purchase goes beyond buying an ice cream from an ice cream seller in the street. So Shatta Wale should be able to identify whom he bought the car from, and then he can go to court. But that must be a misrepresentation. The person didn't have the title, and the person pretended that he has the title, and so he can go to court, a civil court, and
so in all of this, the consumer is not left out entirely. You would be held accountable at some point, no matter what, if you don't do your due diligence.
Yes. So as a consumer, that is why when you are buying a car, you must make sure that you even get a receipt. The receipt is also, most people go and pay for cars and they don't even take a receipt. Oh, let's meet at Accra Mall. I've got my money, 250,000. I'm buying Toyota Corolla. You take the money, I give the papers, and go away. All those things. I think that we need to start to do things right because, like, for example, let me come. When you want to buy a land, for example, people want to go and do the quick one, the window search. Window search, if there's any issue, you can't take that window search report to court. Go and do the official search, which is printed by Lands Commission, so that if there's any court case, you can tender those things as an evidence. So we need to do what is right.
Okay. Finally, Frank, for me, just one question. Your dealers, are they ignorant or they are complicit?
Our dealers are not ignorant. I would say that our dealers don't do this. That fall under the various associations started in this country, under the umbrella union, but I do not do this. The person in question right now, using Shatta Wale as example, is the person a dealer? Who's the person? This is where we come in. This is where we ask the question. Because it's very easy for people to sit in their rooms and order. So we need to look at it and then break the two apart. They are not dealers. They are not car dealers. They are unscrupulous people who are using the market as, what do you call it, a free trade area to be able to exploit people.
Well, Ransford, finally, before we end this conversation, if people do not trust in the ability to do due diligence, are they able to get people or experts like you to want to look into, especially if you're buying a luxury car or some assets that is very expensive?
Yes. You have a lot of people who would help you do due diligence. Everybody seated here, very knowledgeable. Sometimes we like fronting things that we don't have any knowledge in. It is only when it has happened that we'll be discussing what we should have known. So knowledge is very important. But my take is that why are we carrying cash, buying a lot of these assets? Because organized crimes do not like passing money through banks or payment systems that at least can be traced.
Traceable.
So indeed, if I bought a vehicle and I paid through an account, I did a transfer and I have receipt to show that I did a transfer, I put the documentation. This vindicates me in a way. But for monies of this amount to be used to buy assets of this nature, if it happens that what we are experiencing now has taken place, who are you going to call as your witness? What is evidence that you ever bought anything? So we need to stop this act of purchasing a lot of these high-value assets with
through
cash.
hawala.
Hawala.
That's the star word for the day.
Cash
Hawala.
transactions, that is what is causing the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Cash transactions.
So hawala cannot be regulated at all.
And it's not even,
Hawala is very difficult to regulate.
and Hawala, even when we are computing our GDP, we can't even add it as part of the GDP.
And yet a lot of monies go through that route.
Yes.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I bet you'd be a lot more careful. We've been joined by Ransford Nana Addo Jnr., crime analyst and professional certified investigator, what you know as PCI, and Apiakusi Adamako, director, West Africa Regional Center, CAT International, and as well Frank Kofiga, executive secretary, Vehicles and Asset Dealers Union. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on this very developing conversation. Please stay. There's more on the show. Thank you so much, everyone.